Hey guys, welcome to the I Hope They Hear This podcast, and we have another special guest with us today. She's actually a very close friend of my wife. Um, I would classify you as kind of a mentor friend to to
Oh,
Shirley. Um, so,
great.
and from all the things I hear about you, I mean, we've met, but I feel like I know you way more through my wife because you guys are just that
Hmm.
much closer. And
Yeah.
from what I know of you, you seem like a very thoughtful person. So I'm really excited to have you on. Thank you for being on the podcast, Suji. Welcome.
Yes. Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you, David, for inviting me.
Yeah, of course. And yeah, I wanted to capture your story today, but there are a few things that along the way I think will be very interesting to kind of go deep into, but we'll do that as they come up. But can you just start by just telling us kind of where you were born, where you grew up, and kind of how your life was early childhood?
Yeah. Um, I guess my name is Sooji Lee. I am currently in, I guess, the suburbs of Atlanta, so in Swanee. And I was born in Seoul, South Korea. And when I was about 1.5 years old, so very baby, came to the States with my parents, and I'm the oldest out of four, so it was just me at the time. All my younger siblings were actually born in the U.S., so I was the only one born in Korea, and so came here, and I basically grew up in the Swanee area. We were in Norcross for some time, so in Georgia, and I actually went to Swanee Elementary. So I did. I went to Swanee Elementary from second to fifth, and then went to the middle school and high school that follows after. So I went to Lanier and then Hull for my middle school, and then went to Peachtree Ridge High School for my high school days. And I think growing up, how I was. I would say I was probably a good child. And I don't know if that kind of came with the responsibility as being the oldest out of four. And
What's the
I,
age difference between all you and all your siblings?
yeah, the age difference. Okay, so I'm the oldest, and the next youngest, there's a huge age gap. So me and my sister Nancy, she is 5 years younger than me. And then after her is my sister Elizabeth, and they're a year apart, the two sisters. And then after that, 5 years below Elizabeth is George, my youngest brother. And
Wow.
me and my youngest brother George, he and I are 11 years apart. And so we have a huge age. He just entered college, so he moved into Georgia Tech like a week ago, and he just started school this week. Yeah, it's a huge gap. So I think for a while I was an only child for like
Mm.
5 years, and then I started having siblings and learned to be with them, interact with them, and also I think we played a lot together. And I would like shower them,
Hmm.
teach them how to do like those basic things, which I think those are fun. So we always have a lot of good time. Um,
Did you
like
ever
when you're
feel
with your
like,
siblings, yeah.
oh,
Go
sorry.
ahead.
Did you
I was
ever feel
saying,
like you were like an only child in a sense? Because the age, since the age gap is so big, I
yeah.
mean, at least your sisters kind of they have each other with only
Hmm.
1 years apart.
Hmm.
Did you ever feel like you were kind of a secondary mom or anything
I
like that?
think so. I don't know that about it being an only child because I always picture myself with all of them together. But there is that role that I have to play, and like there's always this thing where I can't look weak or like I have to know it all and like have everything put together just because I know that they're looking up to me. And that's how I think my parents, or maybe more so my mom, would put it, because I have younger siblings that, and I am much older too. And so she wants me to be kind of that figure for them. And yeah, I think, um, yeah, I don't know about so much being the only child, but just really
Mm.
old compared to them.
So I'm
So,
curious about your relationship with your youngest brother though, because
mhm.
11 years, that's very significant, right?
Yeah.
absolutely remember when he was born. Like you probably know his entire life. So how does that kind of compare to your relationship with your sisters?
I think out of all of us, I probably have, I don't know my brother as closely as my sisters probably know my brother, and I don't know my brother as closely as I know my sisters. And I don't know if it's also a gender thing too, because I guess it's with sisters and plus they're closer in age. It's easier. Um, but with that age, I think it's always been a little bit more difficult because it's a generation gap too.
Mm,
And even like when we even communicate like today, like current day, the way that he talks is very like I don't know. There's is it slang or like it's just the lingo that
yeah.
he has, and that's how all his friends talk too.
Mhm.
And so I think the relationship there is a little bit more difficult. I don't think I know my brother as much as I want to, and I think that's something that I'm working on right now. It's like how can I approach him more like a sister because I think I have been more of that mom figure where I'm more taking care of it and nagging on him. And so I don't know actually how to be that older sister that he may want me to be for him.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Huh.
yeah,
Wow. Dang,
mm,
11 years. That
yes,
just blows my mind.
yeah, I remember.
So, how did it make you feel when he started college?
Weird. Just I can't believe he's already 18 years old, and in my head, and even my sisters too, we I think we're trying to be his mom almost in a sense, like because we've been through college. Because all my sisters have graduated and they just started working too, and so we have that step out in the I guess real world, and um, yeah, I feel like we tell him these things that he can figure out on his own, but we're just unnecessarily telling him just because we know better because we're a step ahead of him. And so yeah, I feel like yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I wanted to ask you then one thing about because you mentioned how you guys kind of take care of him.
Mhm.
I have this thought that when like younger siblings tend to be more dependent in terms of their personality, they just tend to depend on other people more. And my theory is that it happens because older siblings go through things without really anybody showing them how to do those things, especially for Korean
Yeah.
Americans like us. Like when I'm sure when you first started college, you had to figure out how to do like your FAFSA forms, all your applications,
Mhm.
all those kind of things by yourself, right?
Mhm.
But your brother, he has three other people in the same generation who are able to guide him and
Yeah.
take him through all that. Do you feel like that's a real thing, or am I just making this up?
I think it is a real thing because I think growing up as the oldest and when I went to, I guess when I first started elementary school here, I had to go to ESOL because I didn't even know how to speak English that well because I didn't have, my parents were talking to me in Korean, so I didn't really learn English until I went into school. And so I was kind of paving the path in that way where I had to learn English from at school, not in a family setting. And I think when you have younger siblings, because I will be talking to them in English, and so they kind of get that help, natural help, and I think that just flows as we all grow older, because I think the oldest does pave the way for the youngest to follow, and so it's natural for them to look up, and I think that's what's been happening, and I think because I've even went to I guess I went to school here at Georgia Tech. I think even that is very ideal for my younger siblings. So they kind of followed me in the engineering path because that's what I studied in college. And so I have myself and then my sister who studied engineering and then my brother's now studying engineering. So they just followed that. And
Oh,
there isn't much of a variety. It's very like cookie cutter and they're just following me just like that. And I don't know if they're following me per se or if that's really what they're interested in. And yeah, I think it is a real thing. It just happens to look like that, that the younger ones in the family, they can have the help from the older ones. And I think it should be like that. I don't think we should just throw them out there. But I think there needs to be a good balance because I don't think we can baby them. And I think that's where the spoiling and the, I guess, the babying term comes from. And you kind of spit out those name calling to them because that's what happens, I think. And I don't know if that's something that happened between you and I guess you have an older brother, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my older brother is only 2 years older than me, but
Mm-hmm.
he did do a lot of the paving for me. Like
Mm,
when I started applying colleges and things like that, he was right there helping me, and a lot of the household things, especially because my parents didn't speak English, he took
mm-hmm.
care of.
Mm-hmm.
But I realized that my biggest kind of stretch of growth was when he actually left. So he first
Mm.
went to a different state to go to law school, and then after that he moved to Korea. He's still in Korea now. He has a wife, he has kids and all that. So he's pretty
Oh,
much settled in Korea, but during
yeah.
that time, my parents could no longer, rely on my brother, so they
Mm-hmm.
started coming to me. And that's when I started learning like simple life skills, like
Mm.
calling the telephone company. Like if someone needs to like make changes or things like that. Like I
Yeah.
never had to do that because my brother would always take care of it.
Yeah.
And that's experiencing that is what got me to start thinking about it. It was like I was crippled because my brother was helping me so much.
So is it like as the older sibling, should we just let them be? I don't know. I guess I'm learning
Yeah,
from
that's
your
like
perspective.
But that's an interesting thing too, because I'm really grateful that my brother took care of
Mm,
so many things. And I think there might even be a little resentment if
mm,
he didn't do those things. Do you know what I mean? So
okay.
I think you're right that there needs to be a fine balance, but
Yeah.
I think there also is a releasing point. At one point in
Hmm.
one's life, I think you should kind of let go and say, well, you go and try these things that have been important
Yeah.
to you all these times.
Yeah. And, and one more thing, as the oldest too, if we let, like for example, if I let my brother make a phone call to, I guess, the telephone company, I don't think I would trust him to do it right either. That's another thing. So we might as well just do it because we know how to do it and we've done it before. So there's that like trust issue there too. It's like, can I trust them? Can I trust them to get the best discount? Whatever, whatever.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of that too.
Yeah, it's a really interesting dynamic because even the parents,
Yeah.
like they're like my parents, for example, their level of trust for me had to grow over time. Like when my
Hmm.
brother left initially, they
Yeah.
were still calling him, like he lived in Philly at the time, but they were still calling him to like say, "Can you take care of this, take care of that?"
Hmm.
And it wasn't for a little bit. So like I think my parents even didn't have that trust in me,
Hmm.
and I'm sure my brother didn't either. But
Yeah. Yeah.
so
I
you were
see.
mentioning that all your sisters studied engineering as well. You studied in electrical engineering, right?
Yeah, I studied electrical engineering, and then Nancy, my sister right under me, she studied civil
Okay.
engineering, and then Elizabeth, she studied financial planning. So she studied, I guess, business,
Hmm.
um, and she went to UGA here. So we were all in Georgia too. So none of us did something crazy and went out of state or went out of the country. We were all just right down the street. And then my brother, he's going into the chemical engineering direction. I don't know if that's going to
Wow.
stick with him,
Hmm.
but that's what he said he wanted to do in the recent days. So yeah, that's
Uh, that's,
surprising.
are you concerned at all about him being on campus with the pandemic going on?
Yeah, so we just had dinner together, and my mom went and picked him up. And this is what he said. He said, I bet you in 2 weeks they're going to send all the students back home. That's what he said. And so I don't think it's the safest environment. And even he feels that. Um, and I think that one thing is just students. Um, I don't know how much students in general, and because, just like our country, we just have more of the individualistic mindset. So people choose to do what they want to do. And so I think there's a lot of that more so on campus with all the other students. And you have your friends that come from other, I guess, campuses or schools, wherever they are, and a lot of guests. So I think there's just so many moving parts there. So I don't think it's the best, even how he feels. And even when he was home, he was trying to wear his mask to protect us. But how much can that do, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we all feel a little bit worried and just hesitant, as the whole world is. So yeah,
Yeah, it's tough.
it is. It is.
So, yeah,
Cool.
let's getting back to your story. Is there anything you want to mention leading up to college that kind of defined your life, or any experiences that left an indelible mark?
I think honestly, up until college, my life was just very neutral. Um, I think if anything, it's just a studious person all throughout. Just very like a good child, you would say. Um, Good relationship with teachers, and if I need help, I would always go early. So I mean, there were probably like a couple huge, I guess, points in my life that left like a mark in those years. But I think more of the events, turning point events happened later on, college, post college, and especially with my faith too. That kind of grew in the college, post college days. Because I think if I think about it now, maybe I had taken academics as like my main thing.
Mm,
And so I only focused on that. And I think through hindsight, if I look at it, maybe that was something that I idolized at the time. But as I went into college and had my moments there, I realized like, whoa, I depended on my grades, things like that. So I think, yeah, up until college, it was just very just stable years,
yeah.
and then college hit, and then you're just kind of exposed to something completely new friends, new environment, and then moving out of college and going into the workplace. Yeah, just a lot of variability all over. So I, yeah.
So, what do you think was the sparking, like, what's the word I'm looking for, genesis for your realization into realizing, oh, academics was something that was this big in my life? Like,
Hmm.
what sparked that?
Yeah. So with um, maybe David, you're familiar with this too. Co-oping in college.
Hmm.
So co-oping is when you do, it's kind of like an internship, but you alternate from going to school to work, school to work. You do that 3 times. So 3 semesters you're at the same workplace. And so I started co-oping my sophomore year, second semester. And I was living at home because I came back home to work, and that's when that turning point hit, because I wasn't at school, doing school, studying. I was actually for the first time working away from studying, and I had more free time. And so I think I didn't know what to do with that free time. I was like, what do I do with my free time? Um, and I just remember because I was a member of church, Evergreen Presbyterian Church. I was going back then, and I think because I had so much time to myself, there was more time spent with church members, and just being at church, and even with serving too. And I think that is when I believe for the first time I, out of my own will, opened up the Bible at home. I think for a really long time I just attended service, received the message. We did Bible study at church, but then for the first time, out of my own will, on my own, I was I was sitting down and I opened up the Bible to read for myself for the first time. And it's because I had the time to do that. And
Mm,
I started picking up just other, I guess, faith-based books, and just had a lot of that moment to myself. And that's when I experienced the word. truly transforming my life, which at the time I couldn't tell. But I think if I look back, I'm like, whoa, something was changing in me that I didn't even know. And so I think when I was away from school, right, away from academics, all the classes, all the studying, even friends too, and when I had that time to myself, that's when that occurred to me. And I think that's how God was probably working in me at the time. And yeah, I'm actually very thankful for that time. And since then, I think my journey into faith has really progressed gradually over the years. So yeah, I would say that's the genesis, as you put.
So then, one of the kind of big topics I wanted to hit on with you was your studying of Christian counseling.
hmm
Did this happen soon after that realization, or is that like way down the road?
Oh, way later. I think a lot of my college years were just still building the foundation of my faith because I grew up in the church, but um, but it was just being surrounded by, I guess, Christian people, and then it wasn't it wasn't my own like pursuit of God. It was just me doing the day-to-day Christian things,
Mm,
right? And then when I got to college and had that, I guess, Genesis moment when I was co-oping, it was a very gradual thing. It wasn't like a life-changing 180-degree changing moment for me. It was from then on, I don't know, God was slowly working in my heart.
mhm,
And then I was also part of a campus ministry at the time too, and just really because they're all about discipleship, so just really growing in faith together in the community on campus too. And then I actually got into Christian counseling. The thought occurred to me probably around 2016 ish, and then actually did something about it in 2017, and or maybe it was like 2015. It occurred to me, it was like one of those shower thoughts.
mm.
And then it just evolved for 2 years, and then actually did something about it.
So what did
um
that first initial thought look like? Was it just, oh, hey, Christian counseling, or like what was it that?
oh, it was more like, it wasn't Christian counseling at all. It was more like therapy or like psychology. It started as more of a general and a broad and maybe secular, maybe I can say.
Mhm,
I didn't even put the Christian part until way later. That came afterwards. But it was just like a moment. I was just taking a shower and I was like, oh my goodness, I am very interested in just how people think and how maybe even how the brain works,
mm,
and just the behaviors, human behaviors, and just that psychology realm. And that, I think it just, I was interested in those things, and then it came out to be like, oh, maybe I could pursue something like psychology, maybe try attempting that career pathway, because at this point I was in engineering. I was in the workplace. That's what I was doing. um, and so for me to take that shift would be, it'd be like a pivot, a huge pivot.
right.
So it just birthed like that. It was just a thought. It didn't go anywhere. I just kind of wrote it down in my journal and be like, oh, I had this thought. And I just kind of thought through, I wrote down the thinking process, which was just basically, oh, this is what I'm interested in.
Mhm,
And this field seems to match up to that. Just very logical, putting it together, connecting the dots. And then I think um, when I have those thoughts, you tend to talk about it with people. You
right.
share it, and then people give their feedback, what they think on it, and be like, "Hey, have you thought of this?" And I think even, I don't know about earlier on, but at least in the maybe college days, I had people tell me like, "Have you ever considered counseling?"
Mm,
I don't know. I think it has to do with maybe my curiosity and the way that I ask questions. I don't know. But people have shared things like that, and I brushed it for a while. I was
Mm.
like, okay, cool. But just moved on. But I think it was kind of coming a reality later on, and I was like, oh, why haven't I considered that? If people are telling me that this is something that I could be good at, then why didn't I think about it more? And so those thoughts started coming back too, and then it became a little bit more serious, probably. um I guess, yeah, it got to a point where I was like, should I just go get my master's, get my doctorate in therapy,
Oh
counseling? I
wow.
don't know how to do that, but let me try it, right?
Mm.
And then I started talking to various people, and one of the person that brought up Christian counseling was, at the time, um, our church pastor and his wife. I'm close with his wife, Esther,
Mm.
and she has a huge spiritual influence over my life. And she mentioned, like, hey, have you ever considered like Christian counseling or biblical counseling? And that's the first time that someone has ever said that, right?
Mm.
And then that just kind of opened another, I guess, huge door for me to look into. And that's when I did some research. And yeah, I think it just kind of started going into that direction of me wanting to pursue that even more. The more that I think about it, the more I pray about it. And the first time I thought about even going to seminary, I think that's
Oh wow.
yeah, that never even crossed my mind until I was like, oh, okay, maybe you can pursue something like that through seminary. They offer Christian or biblical counseling in seminary. So yeah, it's taken me that far. And then I signed up for classes, which again, that's like, yeah, it just, that was like a long thought process over maybe 2 years.
Mm.
And then finally letting it become something.
Mm.
Yeah, I even tried to apply to seminary. Like I made an account and tried to go in. I think one of the biggest things that helped me to decide was I went to a counts biblical counseling conference. I think that helped because that kind of tells you, um, because the types of people that come to
Mm.
see if um, I guess if I fit well within that crowd of people, because it's not like a huge passion conference. It's
Mm.
not like very like full of lights and just big and loud. None of that. Is just hymns and very um, like quiet, and you can tell all the people that are there are like counselors themselves, or they just have that very like listening spirit. I couldn't explain it, but I just felt kind of right at that level.
Uh-huh.
And also, how saying growing up, I was just very neutral and just kind of like, I don't know if it's reserved, but just there's just the slow paced rhythm, and that's what I felt at that conference. And I think that was another step, like a big step into like, okay, maybe this is something that I really want to get into.
Mm.
And then months down, I was able to just sign up for some classes. Nothing like a degree or anything, just a few classes, and you could get like a certification just of completion.
Mm.
Not that it's gonna allow me to actually counsel someone,
Right.
yeah, officially. So
So
yeah.
let me ask, what is the difference between like Christian counseling and
hmm
I guess secular counseling? Is there a big difference between the two?
I guess the big difference is, well, I don't know if I can even answer that correctly,
Okay.
but what I think is Christian counseling, we point always back to the truth. So Jesus is always central. But I think with secular counseling, there's a lot of the it's very like self-help-ish. And I don't actually know much about secular counseling or secular therapy or psychology or any of that. But at least with biblical counseling, it's more related to like discipleship
Mm.
and like healing of the heart, things like that. So
So how
yeah.
many did you end up getting the certificate or did
Yeah, so initially I planned to.
Mhm.
So I wrote out my schedule, how many I need to take to complete the certification. But as I was taking classes, because I thought I would be taking 2 classes back to back every semester for like 2 years, right?
Yeah.
But I think that was my ambitious heart.
Oh.
And when I was taking them, I think God was I think he just showed me a lot of things, and it brought out back remember my academicness, that
Right.
part. So I think he had to like take me back and like break that down again. It's like the point of it is not to hurry up and finish these classes as soon as you can. That's not the point. And so what I've come to conclude is just take it step by step.
Mm.
And so I haven't completed the certification. It's 5 classes.
Mm-hmm.
I've taken 4, but how that's been happening was just every semester I would pray like, God, like, do you want me to take another course the following semester? So it's just walking with him in it. So it wasn't like a goal I set and I chased after it, but just walking with him, like if there are other things that he wanted me to prioritize, then I would put that aside and focus on other things. And yeah, it wasn't about getting it done as soon as possible. And I had to learn that because doing school and full-time job is so hard. I remember the
For
first
sure.
semester I had no life.
Mm.
I just studied totally different from engineering. It's like all reading and like processing, reflecting on what you're reading, and then you have to write. There's a lot of writing, which is very different from any engineering course, any mathematical course that I took
Right.
in college. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I felt really judged because you get judged on your thoughts and your reflection, right? And then at
Right.
school, it was more of a right or wrong thing. So, yeah, that was hard too. Every time I received a grade, it's like reflection of like it was actually like my thoughts. Like I felt like I was getting judged. So I think that was one thing I had to learn too.
Okay.
So
Oh, so
yeah.
you're actually still in the middle of it.
Right now, no. The last class that I took was um last, so 2019 spring was the last time I took a
Okay.
class.
Hmm.
Yeah, and then I had thoughts of it taking it this year, but a lot of things happened this year, so I think it didn't. I didn't take the last class.
Gotcha.
And the last class is more of a practical thing too, where you practice it in the church, in the context of a church.
Hmm.
I don't know what that actually looks like. I haven't taken it, but it was a 2 credit class compared to a 3. So more of the application part of it.
Gotcha.
Um, yeah, so I'm not taking one right now.
Do you feel like in the courses that you've already taken, do you feel like they've equipped you to, I don't know, be a better discipler or anything like that? Like, do you find use in the knowledge that you've gained from these classes?
Um, you know, I think I first delved into these classes so that I could like to I guess to learn, right? To gain knowledge and what is biblical counseling, that kind of stuff. But I think through these classes, more than me learning to try to help and counsel others, I think it was more for God to counsel my own heart. And I think
Oh.
and I say this because, again, going back to my academics and the way that I was brought up, I think this was the way that probably God knew me best, that He can, um, I guess, pull and bring out the things in my heart that He wanted to deal with. And so, for I think more than it being a help for others, it was for me to receive the help and the counsel that I needed. And God was using these courses to do that, which is very strange. But even when we're doing like projects, it would be like Sin and Grace project or something like that.
Hmm.
And then you would pick something in your life and you would have to really pray through it. You would be there's so many steps to it. And so it was more of counseling myself, but it makes sense because you have to be helped to in order to help others. And I think that's a big part of counseling too. Like if you yourself haven't received help, then how can you help other people around
Right.
you?
Yeah.
So not I sure I've read I've learned a lot, and I think scripture wise too, understanding the whole full-blown like biblical story. And that way, so my foundations have been more solidified through them. But yeah, more than anything, I think my heart has been helped through these classes. And I think that's the way that God maybe intended. So it wasn't all about me trying to hurry up and get these courses out of the way so that I can do something about it. I think he just wanted me to walk in it with him so that he can work in my heart and help my heart so that maybe we can bear fruit later.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
Wow. So then in the last however many years, it's kind of a sporadic, whenever you feel God leading you to take classes, you take classes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
then where does the BAM stuff fit in? Because that's another topic I wanted to talk
Mm,
about.
hmm. Okay. With BAM, which stands for Business as Mission, um, how I even came across that, which, for example, for what Business as Mission is, um, is just using business as a means to reach people and to spread the gospel. That's the whole point of BAM. And for me, before I even came across BAM, I think I was more gung ho about businesses. So um, just, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a passion for business, but I just love the fact that you can create a business, like run it, employ people, just the whole idea of business, like allocating the correct, like the right amount, like money, time, all the different resources. Just something about a business is just I'm so drawn to, and business and I think discipleship are probably two big things that I just kind of my heart lights up when I think about those things. And I think that's BAM is just both of those put together. And so it was honestly just a simple Google search for me because I like to just online, just surf the web
Hmm.
and just discipleship business, just click around, and I came across BAM Business as Mission. I was like, what is this? And apparently it's been around for a while. And I think people do know about it if I bring it up to people here and there. And so it's out there. And it was just like a moment of discovery for me. I was like, oh my goodness, like something already exists out there, and my heart is totally for the vision of this organization. And it just felt like BAM put into words like what I was feeling in my heart. So it just felt so I don't know, it was just a moment of like, wow, oh my goodness, I'm not the only one. There's like actually a huge movement out there. And so I came across BAM like that. And um, I subscribe to their their newsletters, and you just get like weekly newsletters with updates on what all that organization is happening. And it was just like that, just slow and steady. There was nothing much. And then maybe like months and months down the line, they were looking for someone to hire for a global conference that they're putting together. And I just on a whim like emailed them like, hey, I'm interested. Can I like is this part-time, full-time? Like, can I have more information? And I just threw it out there, and then long story short, it just happened to work out, and I just ended up becoming their event registrar for this global conference that they're going to put together.
Wow.
And so that just I don't know if how that happened really. I maybe it was just a little bit of God's favor there. But it just happened so naturally. I didn't.
Was
It's not forced. It just happened
was
to
there
come
like
away.
a
Yeah.
interview process or anything like that?
Not really. They asked for my resume. I sent them my resume, and there was some emails back and forth. Maybe over a span of like 3 months, they said, oh, I think the big thing is they're asking about a stipend,
Hmm.
whether you would need to be paid or not. And I said, to be honest, I I don't need to be paid. I'm actually more interested about this organization that I think that's my whole purpose of just wanting to work with you guys. And so I think that helped a lot.
Mm.
And yeah, they just brought me on board, and I don't think it was an interview. It was just like asking some questions to see like where I guess my schedule. So it wasn't an interview. It was like they I guess offered me in a sense, and then we had a conversation afterwards, and then it happened to work out, and then yeah, that's how it began, and we signed some sort of like a year contract or something.
Mm.
Um,
What did,
it's called pro bono work. Yeah, so like a more of a voluntary type of work. Yeah.
so when did that happen? Like when you like signed the contract, when was that?
Um, so to put some dates to
Mm-hmm.
make it more clear, let's say like January was when I on a whim just emailed them
Mm-hmm.
um, and applied. And then maybe like March was the offer, and then maybe the contract came sometime like end of April to May. Yeah,
Oh,
so it happened what, 5 months? So it wasn't a quick thing. It was extended for five. Yeah, I guess this was like 5 months long.
wait, so
So
it happened January of this year?
January of 2019, and so the global conference was supposed to be in March 2020, which got postponed to next year. So I never got to go.
Oh man.
Yeah, that was quite a big bummer, and it was a large decision because we already had 400 plus people already registered and paid,
Wow.
right? And so as the event registrar, like you have all these funds on you, and people are asking for refunds now and canceling. And so we've had like 100 or so people cancel. So there was a lot of that. But yeah, it was very sad. I really was looking forward to meeting the team members because we're a global team. People are everywhere. Um, and oh, the global conference is supposed to be in Thailand too. And so
Oh.
the ticket was already booked and everything. So I had to go in and cancel that. So there was a lot of administrative tasks and things
Yeah.
needed to be done to help with that.
So, and
Um,
this is something that you did on top of your day job, right? Like you didn't have to quit your full-time job, right?
yeah, yeah. And I did tell them if I need to prioritize my work or if there's overlapping things, then I would need to focus on work. And they were totally understanding of that. And they would want me to do that. So they were well aware. And I think most of us on this team, the core team, they had full-time jobs or they were in full-time ministry or some vocational ministry type work.
Gotcha.
So,
So, like
mhm,
business as a mission, the
mhm,
idea of that, the abstract idea of that, I understand. But the organization, like,
mhm,
what is it that you guys do?
mm. That's a very good question. So I I'm okay. So business as mission is it's a subset. I don't know if that's the right word under YWAM. So it's actually YWAM is the bigger umbrella, and then underneath there is a business as mission sector. And so it's under that, and and I think with YWAM, it's a big missions organization, and so business as missions is also very missions oriented. But I think the part that makes it different is the business aspect. And so even with this global conference, there will be people from all over the world who own kingdom businesses, who have whatever that business may be. It could be anything from, I don't know, selling coffee to owning some sort of a consulting firm. I don't know. It could look in so many different ways. But what this goal, I can't really say much into the actual business as missions organization, but I can speak more into the global conference because that's where I was helping
Hmm.
out. But it's like that conference, the point of that was to resource all the people who are BAM practitioners per se. And it's for everyone really. It could be for pastors, it could be for um, any leaders, business leaders. The background is very, even students too, educators too. So it was a place where we can all come and be resourced and just be empowered, and probably have a lot of speakers that come and talk about, I guess, them they themselves as band practitioners. So I can't really speak much into the details of it because I wasn't there, and I was hoping to learn more about that as I was at the conference.
Right.
And yeah, and so that was one of the reasons I was like, man, I wish I had gone, because just like when I went to the counseling conference, like you were able to feel it out to see
Yeah.
if like is counseling something that I want to try or get into. I want to do the same with BAM too. Like, man, is this something that God placed in my heart, or is it just a fleeting desire, right? And so I wanted to kind of test it out, but that couldn't happen. So, and I couldn't meet my team either. So
Right.
it was all like virtual meetings. So wanted to meet them in person and greet them, but didn't get to do that.
So
It's okay though.
is it rescheduled for a different time, or is it just
Mhm.
canceled for now?
It's it is rescheduled for next, I think it's next April
Okay.
2020, 2021. And I don't know about it anymore. I
Mm.
actually, so they went through this process where they check in with each of the core team members to see if they were on board for the next year, because that wasn't part of the contract. And
Right.
actually, the decision that I had made was to not to continue. Um, and so, but I think the rest of the team are most of the rest of the team are still continuing, and it was on track for 2021, but I don't know anymore because everything is very uncertain, and because this is a global thing, people are coming from everywhere, all around the world. So I think it just makes it really difficult right now. But yeah, I don't
So
know.
your decision not to continue, was that just because of the uncertainty? Was it because of the pandemic, or?
mm, no, it was it was a really hard decision. And what it came down to was um, just I felt like, because this was such a big thing and a global thing, and I think the one way that God used this time when I was working together with them and serving alongside them was God really opened up my eyes, like the whole world, to the whole world. Like there's a big world view and like a global mindset, which I hadn't seen before. But when you start working with people from like South Africa and people from like Japan and Canada, like just different parts of the world, you have to, your eyes just begin to open because, yeah, we're all just culturally from different places, and even time zone wise too, trying to like fit everything, try to find that one time that works for all of us. So there was a lot of hurdles like that, but I think through this time, um, like I was able to see that global view, that maybe God wanted to show me, like God's heart is for the whole world, not just for USA, not just
Mm.
for Georgia, not just for Swanee, Georgia, because I was just very like Atlanta, Georgia, Swanee, Georgia. My focus was very local, but I think he just gave me that, I guess, wide angle.
Mm-hmm.
And but I think that year was when God helped me to um, open my eyes up. But then I just felt like this shift into, okay, I see that my eyes have been open, but kind of can we like pour that back out into a local setting? And so I just felt God just pointing me more towards the local church, and specifically the church that I'm serving in right now currently. And so it is a lot of hours um, with um, with the band team, working with them, and I think he just wanted me to direct that to in a different way, and
Right.
that is why. And it was hard. It felt almost like a breakup. Actually, I had to come to terms with like, and so something happened in my heart where I had to let it go, right? Because I didn't get to finish it like I thought I would. and I had to kind of stop midway, and I was like, that's not fair, but maybe it is not the time this time. Maybe the time will come another time. So I just kind of let that up to God. So
Gotcha.
yeah.
Do you still feel in your heart kind of a desire to go into business and like kingdom business and things like that?
Yes, that is still big, and I think there's a lot of influence from my dad too, because he's a business owner. So I've seen him just hardworking, and yeah, very diligent for all these decades, right? And um, yeah, and even with like my new role change in the past few months, I've entered into a more consulting role,
Oh, okay.
from a bit. So it's kind of in that business part of the business that I get to see. So I don't know. I've been telling people this, like at the end of the day, I think I'll just be some sort of a coach, whatever
Mm,
that coach, whether it be like a life coach or even a health coach, because I'm into health and fitness. I don't know, but I think something like that.
interesting. Because
Yeah.
I know my wife talks to you a lot about Softy, and
Oh my goodness, yes.
there was even one event where you came out and you helped run the pop-up stand.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun, and I hope to help out again when we can. But yeah, I think that's what I really appreciate about Shirley, or in our relation, our friendship is, we share a lot of this, like just a lot of common ground,
Mm,
and business is one of them. And I think what I really appreciate about that time period when Softy was just in in the work in the works,
yeah, yeah,
um, just seeing how it was done from like step one to step whatever it is now,
yeah.
actually coming to life. Because I think for me, it's just still a thought. It hasn't gone anywhere yet, but I always, through Shirley, I always see it happen, like coming to life. And the coolest part is I see the way that God works in that too.
Mm, yeah,
And when she shares, I'm always super blessed, and I'm like asking her questions like, how did that happen? And just there's this back and forth. And because we worked in the same area in Alpharetta, so we would have these like lunches, almost every week, I think once a week, which, yeah, there was this consistency in that relationship, and especially when soft tea was happening. So I think, yeah, I feel like Shirley lives out actually, and I was able to see that on the side and
yeah.
support her, and like I was on the sideline like rooting for her, and so yeah, when she invites me out to help out with Softy, I'm like, yes, I want to help. Invite me, please. So
Yeah,
it's so good, yeah.
I think you guys like you in your supporting role of Softy, you kind of live out kind of both your business uh, part of your heart and also the counseling part of your heart as well. Because every time Shirley comes home from one of the lunches with you, she's always like, oh,
Hmm.
like it was such a good talk. Like we had such a good
Oh,
conversation. And she's
oh,
always really encouraged.
oh,
So yeah, I think,
dang, praise God. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. So I think you might be right. You might be onto something with like some sort of coaching role maybe in
Hmm.
your future. Maybe that might be something that you'll get into because you're kind of a unofficial from at least from what I can see you're kind of an unofficial coach for my wife so
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you.
yeah so
Oh yeah.
then I think that's a good segue into the next thing I wanted to talk about which is the is it the voicemail project.
Yeah, I guess officially is the voicemail project, and we had to add the ATL because it was taken, the voicemail project. So we had to add the ATL in. But yeah, the voicemail project. Um, Man, that's just very fresh. It just, I guess for folks who don't know what the voicemail project is, it's just a place where, just like what a voicemail is, when you when you leave a voicemail to someone. I think that we take that same concept, but we translate it into more of a Bible verse where you can speak a Bible verse and then record it and then send it to someone. So that's the theme that we were going with, and we have I guess a public platform where people can come and take a listen to those, and it's specifically dedicated to someone. I think that's the important part, that it was for or to someone. It's not just it's not random, I guess. It is very intentional, and it's a specifically picked out verse for someone.
Right.
And
And
yeah, it's
your platform that you use mostly is Instagram, right?
Instagram, just because I feel like that's the easiest way to stay in contact with people and communicate. And then website. We do have just a free Wix website that we're working on.
Hmm.
That's been a journey too, because none of us. Oh, Lydia is my friend who we've been working on this project together, and yeah, she and I, we don't really have much website building experience, so we're just using the free features of Wix to,
Hmm.
there's templates and you can just click buttons and mess around and figure it out. But even then, we still don't know what we're doing. We're just kind of putting it together. So we're gonna have to get some feedback from people
Hmm.
once it's a little bit more completed. But
So I know
yeah.
you guys release a voicemail every Monday at 12, and you guys
Mhm.
just released your first one.
Mhm.
And I know it's direct. The person that it's addressed to is Mariah, right?
Mhm.
So what's the backstory there? Is like what's the relationship between the person speaking
Mhm.
and the person that he's addressing it to?
Oh, okay. So yeah, our first, I guess, release was we had one name so far. It's Mariah, and Mariah she's actually about to be 1 year old soon, or I think she's like 8 or 9 months right now. So she's a baby,
Okay.
and this specific um, Bible verse was from her dad speaking to her baby
Oh
girl.
wow.
Yeah, first child, and so that's very special. And I think it was a good first one to
Yeah,
kind of set the tone, and just to share it with everyone. But I did want to share a little bit of how this voicemail project came
yeah,
about.
for sure.
It was not like something we sat hard and sat down and brainstormed for hours. And it's like, oh, the voicemail part. It wasn't like that. It was just I was over at Lydia's place. I was having dinner with her family too, and then she has a voice like recording studio that she made. It was just a closet, and she wrapped it up with I think they're like blankets where it's supposed to dampen the sound, so
Hmm.
there's no echoing or bouncing around. And she had her mic and everything set up. She's into voiceover. My friend Lydia, she is into voiceover. She actually took a class or two on voiceover, and she was just showing me how to do it. So we were just playing around for fun. And then she had me like record my voice and wear headphones, and she just said, "Hey, you want to record a Bible verse?" And so I was like, "Okay, pick one." And I was like, "Okay, Psalm 23," because that was something that I was reading at the time. I was like, "Okay, let's do Psalm 23."
Hmm.
And so I started recording that, and then she just started like leading me into like just like I guess because at first I was just reading, but she wanted me to be more invested or into the reading. So it's not just reading. So she started saying like read it to someone, and then she was like think of it as like you're in this place, in a room or something like that. And so when she started giving me more of these scenarios, it, the verse Psalm 23, the Lord is my shepherd, started coming more real and more alive. And so you experience something special as you're reading God's word like that. And and I think she and I both felt something at that moment, and we're like, oh my gosh, what is this? And then it just kind of blew up like this. And then as I was driving back home, I was like, okay, what do we call this? And then I think a series of thoughts. I was like, oh my gosh, voicemail, because and voicemail is like something that people are familiar with.
Right.
It's a common term, and so there's just like a more, I guess, meaning or purpose behind voicemail, and so that's kind of how it birthed. And after that, we just met up a few times to think through, do like a whiteboard session, and maybe at like a month after, it just happened to launch like that. So very quick. It was a quick process. This
Mm.
one went really fast. I don't know if it's because we had more time on our hands, just because there's not, we're so limited in what we could do now. What we could do now.
Yeah.
So yeah, we spent some hours together, and it is what it is now. So every day, every Monday at 12 p.m., like you said.
So, what do you hope that, so what is the, if you had to state the purpose of voicemail, what would the
hmm
purpose be? Is it to inspire? Is it to
Oh,
encourage?
mm. it's. I think there's it's a two-part thing. It's first the person who is sending, or the person who is recording the voicemail, that they would, our hope is that they would experience some intimacy with God's word as they were recording.
Mm.
And then on the receiving end, yeah, that they would be encouraged, that they would feel empowered and strengthened. So yeah, there's the encouragement aspect. So both ways for the person who is sending and receiving. It's a twofold thing.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And so these recordings, do you just kind of reach out to people to, like, how does that
Mm,
process work? Or do people reach out to you?
yeah. So in the early, like currently right now, we are reaching out to people,
Hmm.
but with the website, there's going to be a form where you can fill out if you wish to do so.
Mm.
So hopefully, right now it's more of we're reaching out to people, and specifically people that we know of and are close to, because it requires like coming over to someone's house, and so there's a lot of like sensitivity around that right now. But
Yeah.
hopefully, like going forward, when it becomes a little bit more loose, um, there would just be an online sign up where they can RSVP and make a time to come and record a voicemail at their own will. So
Oh,
it's
gotcha.
it's very informal now, and we're trying to build a process so that people can, um, if they want to, they can just go online themselves and then fill something out, and then we'll reach out to them.
Gotcha. I see. Cool. So
hmm
the Instagram handle is the voicemail project dot ATL, right?
Without the dot.
Oh, without the dot. Okay.
Yeah.
The voicemail project ATL. And
Yes.
do you have a URL for the website yet, or are you still working on it?
No, we are working on that, and we will probably have some sort of a video to explain that as well, and we're working on that.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and by the way, on the Instagram page, there
Mhm.
is already kind of an introductory video of you and Lydia explaining what the voicemail project is.
Mhm.
So, guys,
Mhm.
if you guys are, if this has piqued your curiosity, you guys should definitely go and check it out.
Yes.
So, is the plan to just kind of keep it going weekly for as as long as you guys can, or do you guys have like a end date that you're thinking about, or?
No end date. It's open ended. We don't have a goal for this. We're not trying to monetize it or anything. We haven't really put much. We haven't put much money into any just building. It's just all on a free platform.
Mhm.
So we don't know where this is headed. I think it's just a fun way to um, inspire and encourage our community for now. And if it does um, go big, or if it becomes more, if people start sharing, and again, these names, they can be shared to other people with the name Moriah, for
Right.
example. So there is no goal that we've set. We are just riding the wave right now. And if God wants to fully bless it, then yes, we will take on that.
Hmm.
But if not, then we're okay if it just kind of remains within our community right here. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, one of the things that I didn't know about the voicemail project before
hmm
I talked to you is the aspect of kind of being in a different headspace in reading God's word and kind of
hmm
experiencing it, even if it's a verse that you might already know,
Mhm.
experiencing it in a new and fresh way. And I think
Mhm.
that part is really cool. That's
Hmm.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's
And
really
that,
interesting.
yeah, and even for as we are guiding the person who is recording, because we are, it's not just the one take. I think there's like 5 to 7 takes, and each take feels different because there's another element added to it. And so I think that's something that the person who is recording and then the person who is guiding that person will experience together as they're doing that.
Wow.
So it's quite a moment, I think.
Yeah.
Doesn't take too long, but yeah, there's something that goes on there.
And I'm sure
Um,
it was really special for your first, I guess, guest or your first sender, being able to read out that passage for his daughter. As
I
a
think so.
as a relatively new father myself, that
Yeah.
makes me emotional.
Yeah, I mean, maybe when in time that we can have you and Shirley come over
Oh yeah, anytime.
and do something too. That'd be great. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Well,
Mhm.
yeah, we're just at the hour mark. Is there anything that we missed or that you wanted to talk about that we didn't get to?
I don't think so. I honestly don't know what we just talked about. I was just going with whatever David was whatever you were asking me,
Hmm.
and I think it helped. I think in the beginning I was a little bit nervous, so I think I was a little bit rambling. But I think towards the end I was like able to relax, so a lot more calmer now. But yeah, this was so good. Thank you,
Awesome,
David.
awesome, awesome. So no, I mean, thank you for sharing your story because I think one of the big takeaways that we can get from your story is just because the word that Shirley uses to describe you is very chill, very kind of go with the flow, very chill.
No way.
But I'm realizing that you even apply that to your relationship with God. Like you are open to receiving His course correction, and you're open to going with the flow that God sets before you. So I think that's something that's a challenge for a lot of people, me included. It's not always easy to take your hands off the steering wheel, right? To
Yeah.
allow God to,
Mhm.
because one of the things that shocked me was when you said that you just pray every at the beginning of every semester for your Christian counseling courses
Mm.
to see
Mhm.
whether or not you would do it. I
Mhm.
don't like that would be very difficult for me. It would give
Oh
me
my goodness.
anxiety to
Yeah.
not have control over my schedule like that.
Yeah.
Um, but I think yeah, that's a really good takeaway for me personally, at least.
Yeah. I mean, thank you. I think when I am just thinking back in my life, because you don't, I feel like I'm being reminded, and you don't really do that often, right? You're just kind of looking at present day or future.
Mm.
But when you think back and see all the different things that you walked through, all the different life things that occurred along the way, you see and realize more of his footprints all over. And I'm like, I'm just really blessed just having this conversation and being able to think back to those days. So thank
Awesome.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, guys, if anything we talked about got you curious, any other things that I'm sorry, Lydia, any other things that Suji's been doing is interesting to you, if you have any questions or feedback, please reach out at ihthtpodcast@gmail.com. That's I hope they hear this abbreviated, or on Instagram at I hope they hear this, or on Twitter at ihthtpodcast. Make sure to go follow the Voicemail Project ATL to get to see a new voicemail every Monday at 12. And Suji, thank you so much for being on. And it was a pleasure. And for all the listeners, thank you for listening. And we'll talk to you guys next time.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.